Hi guys, so welcome back to my tutorials. In today's tutorial, we're going to create this card you can see here. This is for like a grocery that is selling meat or a store or a shop. So let's get started. We have some fancy things going on. You can see this percentage drop is has some unique shapes. We are going to create this using CSS. We also have some wish list. We have something going on here, something going on here, and finally here. So let's get started. So to begin, there is one thing that we need first to install is that you can see we are using some icons. So these icons come from Font Awesome. And to make sure that we have Font Awesome, the very first step is to get the Font Awesome CDN link. So this is the Font Awesome CSS. So how do we get the Font Awesome CSS so that we can use the icons? So the best way is to use CDN.js. CDN.js is a popular open source CDN library that can help us load these fonts, but you can also get this font by yourself. If you copy the URL and paste it, you'll go to the CSS, the exact CSS. So if you copy this CSS and put it in a style maybe fontawesome.css and then link it to the head tag, this one will work. But it's always good to use a CDN because the CDN now will serve users based on where they are. If someone is in the US, then this one is going to serve them from the nearest data center. If someone is in Kenya, like for instance, then it will look for the nearest one and cache from there. So there are some advantages for using a CDN. So we are going to use the CDN directory. So we copy the link tag and we paste it here. And that's it. So the next step is to go to the CSS file. So let's create a style.css. In the styles, let's now write the default styles where we get a margin of 0 and a padding of 0 and a box sizing of border box. These are just basic CSS styles. The very next thing is that the font that I'm using is called Poppins font. So you go directly to fonts.google.com, look for the Poppins font. So I'm going to remove all the fonts so that I can show you how we add them. So you go to the homepage of the Font Awesome and search for Poppins font. You'll see it pop up. Click on it, and as soon as you click on it, you'll be able to see a button that says Get Font here on the bottom, right? So after getting font, then click Get Embed Code, and then go to the import. Don't worry about the language, you can change that, but that doesn't change the fact. Then copy this import style to your style folder, your style file, and then paste that in. That's it. So the very next thing, let's link up our CSS to the HTML. And we do that by just writing link CSS. And then this one will use a default style.css file, which is the same format we have used to name our file. So there's nothing else we need to do. Then we can collapse the head. And in the body tag, let's start creating this. So how am I going to work around this? So as you can see, we have in a glimpse, I can see I have two sections. So I have this upper section and the lower section. You can see different things. There is no right or wrong when coming to design or creating. So for my case, I can see two elements, the top element and the bottom element. So I'm going to create the top element and give it a class of image wrapper because this one is essentially wrapping my image. And then after the image wrapper, I now have the content. So the content will hold this tag, the title, the price, and the increment, and the cart or the shopping bag. So let's start with the image wrapper. The image wrapper, the very first thing we are going to add is just the image. And if you need this exact image I have used here, you always say that you go to my GitHub repository, TechWithTwin /TikTok-project, the same way I'm pronouncing it. Look for a project called food card v3. This is a version 3. And then in the version 3, you see the meat.png file. Copy that meat.png file. So let me drag the PNG file to my folder. So just copy the meat and paste it. That's the meat we are going to use. So in our HTML, in the image, the source is /. Whenever you see /, this means the current working directory. And then we get the image.png. The placeholder is, we can say, the alt, we can say meat image. So that's it for our image wrapper for now, but we'll add other stuff later on. Like for instance, the image wrapper will still hold this price tag or the percentage drop tag, and then it will also hold the wish list. So, but for now, we don't need to care about that. So the next section we are going to deal with is the content section. This one has 4 elements: the tag, the title, the price, and this bottom section, which has 2 elements. These left-hand elements and the right-hand element. So let's start with the tag. So I'm going to create a div with a class of tag. Inside, I'm going to create a paragraph and say meat, just like that. After the tag, we have the heading. Let's use a heading level 3 and say farm fresh organic meat 1 kg. Then let's go to the price. So we can create a paragraph p.price. And then we can say this one costs $11.00. And then you can see this text is away from the paragraph. This one you use something called a sub. So you come here and add a sub and say sub for a short form for subscript, and then /kg. So you can use a sub, you can use a soup. So a soup goes here on top, a sub goes on the bottom. Finally, after that, let's create the summary div. I'm going to give it a class of summary. This one will hold 2 elements, this left-hand element and the right-hand element. So the left-hand element, I'm going to call it the quantity. So we create yet another div and call it quantity. And the right-hand section will hold our cut. So we can create a div and say cut. I hope you can see how we are doing these things. So we have the summary section. This is the whole section. The left-hand section, we call it a quantity. The right-hand section, we call it the cut. Inside the cut, we need to add the shopping bag icon. So remember, we added the Font Awesome CDN link. So to make sure we get the icons now, we go to Font Awesome website. So Font Awesome, go to Font Awesome website, and specifically we are looking for a shopping. So this one is taking a while to load. So we are looking for shopping. So we get a shopping basket. I'm going to use this one. You just click it. Then some pop-ups will show up. And then in that pop-up, you can copy the link, the tag with the icon. So you can see we have added it. So you can close that. So after the shopping cart, in the quantity, we have 3 elements. I hope you can count 1, 2, 3. So we can go here in the quantity. The first one is the button. And then we can give it a class of minus because this one is for subtracting. Then let's go back to Font Awesome and look for minus icon. So we can say minus. So in the minus, you'll see the first icon. You just click it and then copy it here on the bottom. Let's go back to the minus and then paste that in. After the minus, we have a paragraph, and then we are going to initialize it by 1. This is the paragraph I'm talking about. So I don't know whether I can bring up the big cursor here. This paragraph 1. Finally, we have another button. So we can create a button dot plus. So let's go back to Font Awesome. And then we look for a plus icon. So we're going to say plus. All right. So this is the plus. Click, the pop-up will show. Then copy just click inside. This one is for the HTML. Just click it, and then let's go back in the plus, and then we paste that in. We are done with the HTML. Whatever is left is these two elements, but we are going to add those as we continue. So let's go live on this project and see what we have. So this is what we have. The image is too large. So first of all, let's resize this image in the HTML. We can go here and give it a width of 300 pixels. Right, and then you can see all the elements, how they look. So the next thing I'm going to do is, let's go to the styles. Let's now grab the body, and then the very first thing we are going to do with the body is to place this card in the middle. So to place this card in the middle, we are going to say display flex, justify content to the center. Okay. So that one is on the body. So we need to wrap this content with the card. So we need to wrap everything inside a card. So we can go to the bot before the ending body tag, and then we wrap it like that. So that's nice. So the next thing we are going to do here is, let's add some paddings of 2rem. This one is to prevent all the elements from going way above the top. So we can also do 1.5, 1.4. Okay, so that's section is done. Let's now grab the card. So you can say .card. Then the first thing, let's limit its width to 350 pixels. And also let's give it a background color of white. Nothing changes. Let's add a background color to the body of hash F4, F4, F4. Okay, and this one is a bit visible. All right, so let's also specify the font. We installed the Poppins font, so you can say font family Poppins, and then as a fallback, sans serif. So someone was asking what happens when we don't have internet. This fallback works because this one is the default present on the browsers. All right, so in the card, let's add some border radius and some borders. So we can start with a border of 0.8 pixels, solid. And then before, there's a color we are going to use quite often. So I'm going to create variables for it. This one, let's start with the primary color. This one will be hash FF7D08. And then the border color is equals to hash 98 A1. So these are some of the colors we are going to use. So this one will be border 0.8 pixels solid, and then a variable of border color. That's nice. So, and then let's add some border radius to the card. Border radius of 5 pixels. So this one is to prevent these sharp edges. All right, so that's awesome. So we gave this image is inside a div with a class of image wrapper. So let's target that image wrapper and start styling it. So image wrapper, let's limit the height to maybe 15 rem. Right, so that's the height. And then also let's now grab the image itself. So it's in the image wrapper, and then the image. So width will be 100%. And a height of 100%. Okay, you can see it, and then you can see it is stretched out, so we can add an object fit of cover. So that section is done. The next section now we need to deal with is something else we also like to add on the image wrapper is an overflow of hidden to prevent any image from overflowing away from all this. So the next thing we need to work on is now the content. So we can grab the content, we give it a class of content. So let me go back and show you. So this is the content, this is the whole section, which is from the meat farm, all this. This is the section. So we can say content. And then let's display this content flex. And the reason we are doing this is because we want to add some gaps between the elements. So we can say flex direction column. Then here I can add a gap of 0.4 rem. You can see now the elements are starting to space out. Then let's add some paddings. So this padding, now I want to add padding to, I want to specify each side. So I'm going to start with the top. This is how it starts. The top should be a bit less of the paddings. So we can start 0.7 rem on the top, on the right 1 rem, on the bottom 1 rem, on the left 1 rem. This is how you can specify individual sizes and you can add them as you should. All right. After the padding, I think we are almost done with this section. So the next thing we need now is to start styling the tag. So we have the tag is inside the content. So we can collapse the content. You can see the tag is inside the content. So let's now fix the content. So we can say tag and then color. Let's give it the border color. All right, you can see now the tag is a bit faded away. All right, so the next thing we need to work on is the heading. So we have the content and then the heading is inside the content. So we can do dot content, then h3. And then we want to reduce the font weight. I want to reduce the font weight to maybe 600. Let's do 600. All right, you can see now the font weight is a bit manageable. The next thing we need to work on is the price. So we can do dot price. And then let's change the color to the primary color. So we can say we use the variable and then grab our variable, which is primary. So you can see it. And then let's increase its font weight. So font weight should be 600. Right. And then the font size can increase also. So you can say font size 1.2 rem. That's nice. So after that, let's grab the sub because the sub doesn't need to have the primary color or being bold. So we can say dot price and then the sub color of black. And then let's change the font weight to maybe 300. All right, we are done with that section. So let's move to the bottom section. This one is what we called the summary. So you can see the summary has the quantity and the cut. So we can display this both flex. So we can say dot summary display flex there. You can see now this section and the cut are now in the same line. Then justify content space between. Now you can see the icon goes to the end. And then let's try to align them to the center. Align items to the center. Yeah, just like that. So after the summary, we need to grab the quantity now. We can say dot quantity and then display flex as well. Now you can see these three have been displayed flex. So let's give each of these items a fixed width so that they can look like the exact finished version. So how are we going to do that? We are going to introduce a new selector. So we can say quantity and then direct children. So select, we say this selects direct children. This means direct children. So direct children is like, if I want the direct children of the quantity, it's the button. the paragraph and the button. These are not direct children, these ones. So if I say select every direct children, by using the star, I'm selecting every direct children. I'm going to give them some fixed widths. So I'm going to say a width of 30 pixels. So you can see them like that. And then let's give them or a border of the same border. We can say border of 1 pixel, solid var border color, each one of them. But we are facing an issue whereby some of the borders are collapsing. We are going to fix that later. And then because we want everything to be in the center, we can use flex here. So we can say display flex, line items center, and justify content center. Now you can see each element is in the middle of its given space. So the first thing we are going to do is that let's grab the minus button. We give it a specific class, which is minus. And then we can remove its right border. So we can say dot quantity, but let's first grab all the buttons and remove the background color. So you can say background color transparent. Just like that, the background color is gone. So let's continue with what we wanted to achieve. So which is, it's inside the quantity, and then we grab dot minus. So the very first thing we want to do is border right none. Now you can see, let's see. So here there's still, I think there are some overlaps. So the quantity. So the overlap is gone. If you are keen, you can see here the overlap is gone. So let's do the same on the other button. So the plus, but now we remove the border left, then which is none. So the overlaps are gone. The next thing is that the minus, we need to add some border radius on the top left border radius, bottom left border radius. So the minus, we can do border top left radius, we can say 5 pixels, and then border bottom left radius, we can do 5 pixels as well. So you can see we create that illusion that this is the same element. Then on the other hand, we do the same on the other. So we can say border top right radius 5 pixels. We are doing the opposite way. Then border bottom right radius 5 pixels as well. So you can see we now create a very nice shape. And then, so let's increase, I think this is okay. We don't need to increase anything. So let's now grab the paragraph. So we are going to say dot quantity, and then we grab the direct child paragraph. This is just, we only have one. So the quantity, the direct child is only this one. So how we can work around this is, let's give it a background color of hash EF. This is a grayish color, you can see it. And then let's increase its font size a little bit. So to 1.2 rem. Okay, that looks nice. So let's now continue to this other section. You can see this one. This one is the cut. The finished version has a background of greenish background. So how we can do that is that inside the cut, this is the cut, we have an icon. So what we can do is that dot cut. The first thing we add is a background color, and the greenish color is hash 3CBA16. Let's go back to the finished and to our version. You can see it. Now you can see the button, the icon is not visible, so we can do a color white. That's nice. And then let's give it some fixed width and height. So we can say width of 30 pixels. And the reason we are doing this is we want to create a square so that we can have a linear circle that has the element in the middle, the height of 30 pixels, right? You can see it now. The icon is not in the middle, but first let's add some border. Now let's do display flex, align items center, and justify content the center. You can see now the icon sits exactly in the middle. You know, there's a meme that goes around that you don't know how to center a div. So this is the trick to get a very, very perfect div with the elements or the icon in the middle. And then finally, let's add some border radius of 50%. We get a very perfect circle. Let's add some paddings to it. So we can do a padding of 4 pixels. Now we get a very nice circle with the element exactly in the middle. So let's continue. The next thing we want to add is the wish list. Let's go to Font Awesome and look for the heart icon. So let's look for the heart. We want the open heart, this one. And in case we are creating this in JavaScript, whereby we are making sure the heart is, when you click, it's red. When you don't click, it gets back. You just switch this icon with a filled icon and fix its width. Not even its width. We just change its color. I could show you that, but now the time is too much gone. So we go back to the image wrapper. We are done with the content. Let's close the content. So in the image wrapper, we are going to paste this icon and give it a new class of wish list. We don't want to mess with Font Awesome classes. So after adding the wish list, let's go now to the image wrapper. And the image wrapper, the very first thing we do is a position of relative. Because if you add a position of relative to an element, and inside it you add an element as position absolute, you can place that element based on the parent. Position of relative here. And then you grab the dot wish list. You can say in the wish list, let's give it a top of 5%. So let's first give it a position of absolute. So let's go back here so that you can see what we are doing. Position absolute, a top of 5% and a right of 5%. You can see that icon shows up there. So we need to, let's increase its size. So font size 1.4 rem. That's fantastic. Let's fix its color to maybe grayish color. So you can say color gray. That's done. We're done with that section. Let's now add the other, this side. So this side, we are going to not to add an icon, we are going to add a div and give it a class of, is it a tag or can give it a class? Don't rest, we can omit giving it a class because we only have one div inside the image wrapper, so we can even access it very easy. So inside the div, let's add negative 25%. Before I save, let's go now here and grab that image wrapper direct child div. This is what I was talking about. We can access this div as a direct child because we don't have any other direct child div. And then here, we are going to give it a position of absolute. And then now the top will be 5%. So we can say top of 5%. Want it to remain in the same line as the other icon. This line here on top. And then the left is 0. The left is 0 because this one starts at the end. And then let's give it a background color of primary color. And then if you go back here and save, go back here, you can see it now. It looks a bit ugly. Let's give a color to that text. So we can say color of white. That looks nice. So the other way we are going to fix this using paddings, we want to increase some paddings here. On the right, we need some very more paddings than the other side. So we are going to add individual padding. So we're going to say padding. We start with the top. Top can be 3 pixels. Then the right, we need more paddings in the right because we want to push it this side so that we can add that shape. 15 pixels, and then we can do a 3 pixels on the bottom, and on the left let's do 10 pixels. This is what we are left with. So how can we add now the shape? I know that's where everyone wants to know. How do we add this shape? Then before we do that, let's reduce the font size of the text. So we can say font size 0.85 rem. All right, so the elephant in the room, how do we add that shape? I've talked about this in the previous section. We can use something called clip path. And a clip path, you can clip a section based on a path you specify. So we can specify a path that comes and clips like this, and then like this. So let me show you. But we are not going to deal with the clip paths. We are going to use an online tool called Clip CSS. So just search Clip CSS, open the first link, which is just search Clip CSS, and then you'll see that clip path. So before I move on, you can see this is a clipped triangle. What this does is that, let's say this is our element. If we do like this, we say that clip this section by what we have specified in terms of percentages. All right, so you can see this one starts at 50% 0. We are just specifying a direction. So the clip path is just a direction. So let me look for a pentagon, still the same. So for the triangle, look here on the bottom. We are starting at 50% on the x-axis. On the y-axis, it's 0. Start there. And then we go all the way from 0% on the x-axis and 100%. So we are starting with the y, I think. No. So this one is 50%, 0%. So 50% is from here. So this is the x, 50%, and then 0% on the y. And then we get to 100. So let's not focus on the clip path syntax. Let's focus on how we can use this visual tool to create us. I'm going to copy this clip path so that I can show you how it works. So I'm going to go here back, and in my div, let's paste that clip path. See what has been clipped. We clip some fancy triangle. So we clip and say this should be left. So in our case, we are going to use a trapezoid. We are not going to clip here. This one is 0, 0. So this one starts at here. All right. And then it moves to x 80%, and then y 0, and then it moves to 100%. I think this one is well illustrated. So this one is 0, 0. We start here at the top. This one is 0, 0, x 0, y 0. We move forward to x 80%. Yeah, we can see this is around 80%. And the y is still 0. We have not moved in the y-axis. Then we go to x 100. This one is 100, and this one is 100%. And then we go finally back to 0% on the x-axis, and then 100% on the y-axis. So I think this one still won't give us what we want because we want to clip another section here. So I'm going to use a 5-sided one. So let's start there, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then like that. So we have clipped nothing. But now we can go here until 50%. And then from here we can clip inward like that. So copy this and pasting it here. Save. And again, we get that shape. So That's how we do that, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, leave a comment, share with your friends, and follow this channel. And let's see you next. Thank you for watching.